friends, so early today I got a message from someone who wants to start exercising. However, they have a concern and they say the only thing that motivates them to exercise is improving their appearance. So a lot of people can relate to that. And they go on to say that it seems useless anyway because they're going to end up turning into a wrinkled, gray-haired meatbag when they're older. And I want to share my response I gave this person because I think it can help a lot of people going through a similar thing in their lives. So while people may not relate to that exact sentiment, maybe some people do. I'm not sure how many feel that way about exercise, but a lot of us have felt similarly about certain things at certain points in our lives, whether it's why bother going to school and getting a good job if the economy is terrible anyway? If I'm not going to be able to afford a home or even a car, why even bother working and trying? Especially if I'm just gonna die anyway. Why bother dating if a lot of people out there are looking to take advantage of me? If a lot of people out there are hurt, yes, but will end up thinking about themselves and not thinking about me. Why bother looking for a partner when it's unlikely I'm gonna find my soulmate in this vast ocean of people? It is kind of a bleak mindset, yes. And even if we might recognize that at the time, it's hard to break free from it, right? So whether we feel that way about the economy or global politics, it's understandable, I think, that we might feel a bit helpless about some things. And I just want to share a mindset that has really helped me with this and some actionable steps that I took to get there. Because it doesn't have to be so hard. Our outlook doesn't have to be so bleak. The hard work doesn't have to be such a struggle. I know in fitness, there's a common mantra, a common answer to this, that we should just push through it. Yes, hard work is part of the equation. Effort is required for most of the major pursuits in life. Whether you really care about fitness or your studies or you want to save the world, it's probably going to require a lot of work and not all of it will be enjoyable. However, that effort, when everything is aligned, can feel good. It can feel good to exert yourself and push yourself hard. It doesn't have to be a slow drag through the mud all the time. And before I get into that, it's a pretty simple thing. I want to share about when I relate to this mindset most, when I relate to this kind of black and white feeling world, this bleak outlook, bleak mindset most. And it is usually when I am sick. I really dislike being sick. I know nobody really likes being sick, but I think I dislike it more than the average person. Even small things like having a cough or a cold or the flu, for me, even a small flu for myself, I really dread that. Because not necessarily because I feel physically tired, right? Staying in bed, I like being active, but because of the mindset that puts me in. Because I am more tired, because there is actual stress on my body, increased stress on my body. I am stressed, I'm tired, I don't have the same energy I do. And this is really when those thoughts enter my mind the most. I like having a lot of projects going on. I like having different things that take a long time to build. I enjoy building it. I enjoy scaling the mountain, the metaphorical mountain. Maybe one day I'll scale an actual mountain. I enjoy building a wonderful community of like-minded people who can help each other along their journeys. But I don't always feel like it. I don't always enjoy that. And usually when I'm sick, especially when I'm sick, but sometimes when I'm tired and stressed, I just don't really see the point, right? And I know that even though I'm only sick, thankfully, for a couple days, sometimes one day, sometimes a couple weeks, some people feel this way for extended periods of their lives, months, years, decades even. And the lessons that I take going through that, because I try to learn a little bit from every experience in my life. An important thing is I know I'm not always that way. I know I don't have to be that way. My default mode, so to speak, is not necessarily this delusionally happy person, but I have always kind of been a driven, motivated person. When I see a puzzle, I want to solve it. When I see a project or something I really want to build, I get excited to build it. I get excited to do the things that are hard and take a long time. And I especially like doing it for other people because afterwards, I know that I can put it in front of them and they go, wow, this is incredible. How long did this take? Holy cow, 10 years? Thank you so much. And it's this thing, ideally, that they really needed or wanted, whether they realized or not. I love the idea of that. And the fact that is my default mode, my default state, is really important to me because I think it's like if you've been in a good relationship before, you're more likely to recognize a bad one, a toxic one, an abusive, controlling one. And if you've been in a good workplace before and you've had a good boss, a good mentor, a good leader who genuinely cares about your health and well-being and your progress in life, then you're more likely to recognize a bad workplace that just wants to take advantage of you. Same thing with friends or health or money. On the other hand, if I had only ever experienced bad relationships, I might think that's how things should be. If I've only experienced bad workplaces and bad friendships, I might think, well, this is just how things are. I know everyone says life is hard. Maybe this is what they mean. And I just wouldn't know that there's something else beyond that. But because when I feel sick, I feel terrible, and all my projects and my drive, my motivation, despite my best efforts, go down a lot, I know there's something on the other side. I have a little bit of not diluted optimism, but realistic optimism, and I have some hope. And I know that as I slowly get better, it's very rarely fast enough for me, as I feel better, and whether I'm recovering from a cold or just recovering from a very stressed, low sleep period of my life, I know that a lot of the challenges that I faced, a lot of the issues that seemed crushing, will seem easier to handle. Face value, they're the same issues. Same money issues, same friendship issues, same management issues. But I know there's a way to face them and a mindset that we can approach them with that will make them seem a lot more manageable and less crushing. And we know that even if something is hard, we can start with something we can do and work our way up. We can take things one step at a time, which is usually how we have to do it anyway, so might as well. And the takeaway from that is that as we continue to improve our lifestyle, we sleep a little better, and we make choices on what we eat and drink a little better, and we exercise more, then effort becomes more enjoyable. And exercising becomes not as effortful. It becomes a little bit more enjoyable to push. We enjoy pursuing things, and we can enjoy working out. Not everyone does. It's not everyone's flavor, but inherently effort might feel a little bit less overwhelming. Now, of course, that is easier said than done, right? So just improve your diet, lifestyle, and exercise. Got it, Hampton. Thank you very much. But the good news is, similar to how there's a negative chain of events when one thing might go wrong, like if we don't sleep well, we're less likely to exercise because we feel more tired. We're less likely to make healthy food and drink choices because we're more stressed, or less likely to have the drive and motivation to want to pursue our projects and our passions because we're more tired. The reverse is also true. So there's also a positive chain of events when we make one positive change in our life. So think about what the easiest thing for you to do first is. So it's not just an exercise that we start with what we can do and we work our way up, but imagine your house, you need to clean your whole house, it's a mess. Then you can start with really any room that seems the easiest to you because you need to get to that place anyway. So maybe it's hard for you to change what you eat and drink. It's hard for you to get into exercise, but you're kind of tired, so you can probably go to bed half an hour earlier, 1 hour earlier. As we improve our sleep, then we have more energy to exercise. Then we have more energy to do things. And we're less stressed and we can make more positive, intentional food and drink choices. One positive change in one area can positively affect the other areas. So we start with what we know we can do. And this brings up another important point because the original message I got says exercise is stressful, takes up time, and is exhausting. But I know that exercise doesn't have to be any of those things. A good tuned workout can help us manage our stress, doesn't have to take that much time, and can actually energize us depending on what we're doing. But the only real reason I know that really is because from a young age, I was always into fitness. I liked playing outside, I liked climbing, I liked running, and I was always relatively athletic even as a child. So I got that positive feedback from my friends, my parents, my teachers, and just nature to where, wow, you're pretty good at this. Why don't you try more? Why don't you try running? Why don't you try racing? Why don't you try this sport? And as a result, I was encouraged to do more. And as I studied and practiced, I learned how some of this is actually quite simple and we can optimize our fitness. We can optimize our workout routines around our schedule and what we want or need to do. And there's two main reasons I bring that up, other than just to add to the Hampton Wiki. Was a difficult child. And the first is that this is one of the reasons why it's important for us to start with something we can do competently and work our way up. So there's a term that's thrown around in many different fields called the Goldilocks zone. I think the most official one is used in astronomy and describes a place where the Earth is, where it's not too hot and it's not too cold, but it's just right for us to live in. That's why it's called the Goldilocks zone. But I'm referring to the Goldilocks zone when it comes to learning new things, of trying new things, where something doesn't seem so challenging that we can't even think of how to approach it and it just seems impossible and we want to give up. But it's not so boring that we think, what's the point of even doing this? It's so easy for me. I don't care about it. But it's just challenging and exciting enough to where we want to learn and do more. That's generally around where we want to be when we're exercising or trying to make changes to improve our lifestyle. Because honestly, as you can probably imagine, I wasn't that strong as a child. I didn't even know what a deadlift was. I probably couldn't even deadlift 100 pounds when I was 6. So why even try, right? There's a saying that goes something like, the people who succeed in an endeavor are often smart enough to figure it out, but dumb enough to believe in themselves. And that was the Goldilocks zone for me and a lot of people. When we have those confidence of the early wins, when we have the positive feedback, when we try something new that's just a little bit out of our comfort zone, and we think, wow, I can do this, maybe I can do the next step too. That can lead to a long cascading chain of positive events, positive changes, and positive impact to your life. So start with something you can do, Goldilocks zone, positive changes. And the second thing is that the reason that I learned about fitness programming and I realized, it's not as hard as I thought it was. Fitness and exercise does take effort and hard work, yes, but it's not nearly as much as I thought. We don't have to do this for hours just to get a little bit of benefit like I thought when I was a kid. And this similarity and trend is seen in a lot of different fields. Think of something that you're good at and have spent a lot of time in and maybe enjoy a lot. As you dove further into that and learned more about it and understood the structure of things, things may have seemed less like magic and more simple. You can understand how you organize these things. You understand how fitness is organized. You understand how biology can be organized. You understand how music can be learned. Not just in principle, like understanding the foundation of a field of study, but also when it applies in practice too. So you think a lot of novice singers are more likely to use more strain when they're singing. Not even just singing, but playing instruments. Whereas a master musician or someone who spent a lot of time still has tension, but they can manage it a lot better. They use just enough for it to sound good and have their intended effect. So the effort, tension, and hard work is still there, but because we know where to strategically place it and we understand the principles of this field of study, then we know where we can strategically place that hard work in order to get the best results. So as you understand exercise theory and exercise science, you understand you don't have to live in a gym and only eat chicken and broccoli in order to put on muscle and be healthy. And as you understand music theory and chord theory, you understand the foundation of many of your favorite songs, and you know, oh, so it's not just random notes that people are playing. I actually understand how they organize this. Now I can build upon it, play with it, or create my own music. And these are all fields I kind of know, so I'll use one that I don't know quite as well, which is illustration. So in my recent videos, you may have noticed some illustrations and speed paints, and we work with a wonderful and talented artist named Yvonne, also known as Bunselle. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she makes these drawings, whether they're your style or not, very quickly, and they just blow my mind with how good they can be. Now I'm sure she understands perspectives, using models. What's that thing where they draw the wooden dolls that are hanging around and you draw them from different angles? She knows that with the faces. But for me, who doesn't completely understand that, it just seems like magic. It's like, wow, it's amazing that you can do this, and so quickly. We're building a webtoon together, which I'm really excited to share, by the way. And please do more of it. I want to see more. And the reason I bring it up is because as we understand more, right, so understanding how to eat and drink well, understanding how to sleep well, understanding how to optimize your lifestyle and maybe move away from some habits that you know aren't good for you might seem very hard and daunting at first. Even when I say start with something you can do, you might think, man, so I'm gonna start with small steps. I understand that, but it might seem like you're climbing Mount Everest. Like, wow, it's gonna eventually get very hard. And it might. But as we understand more, as you try more, as you learn more, and you do the things that you get better at and you learn more about because you have those early wins, intermediate wins, and then expert wins, then you tend to understand that it wasn't quite as hard, quite as difficult as you once thought, because you're putting in the effort, but you're also learning about these different areas. So if you like fitness and you do fitness, eventually you'll want to study fitness to some extent, even if it's just to optimize your own routine. As you like music and you play music, eventually you probably will want to study music to some degree so you can expand upon what you're playing. And as you adjust your diet and lifestyle so you can better enjoy your life, put in the effort, and pursue the things you really want to pursue, then you might realize that, I understand the basic organization, the basic structure of how I can start to make positive changes. So while there is a lot of hard work required for many things in life, after you step in, and you take a look around, and you try, and start with what you can do and work your way up, you may realize it's not as hard, daunting, and impossible as it originally seemed. So the first part is that early wins are important because they can motivate us to do more. And the second thing is that after we understand something, they usually seem less daunting and more simple. And if you made it this far, thank you so much. There's something I think you can try. If you pick something up, it could be a weight, a rock, anything you can hold safely and securely, and hold it for around 30 seconds. And 30 seconds should be around your max. So early on, you should be able to speak, walk, turn around, and talk like I do. 10 seconds in, gets a little bit harder. 20 seconds, gets harder, you can't speak as much, and you can set it down or grab it as you start to tap out around 30 seconds. So if you try that, first of all, try to be safe and don't drop it on yourself or anything. But if you try that and you reflect on it afterwards, try to put aside the physical aspect for now and think about the mindset you had as you went through that. So early on, the first few seconds, you felt pretty in control. You could speak, you could do a lot of different things. It was quite simple. And then as you got into the final 10 seconds, it got harder, you were shaking a little bit more, and you really had to push yourself to get through until you finally weren't able to do it around 30 seconds. That level of intensity is around where I push myself for many of my projects. So it's not so overwhelmingly difficult that I can barely control it for a few seconds and I'm straining myself and I injure myself possibly, but it's also not so simple that I can hold it for hours and hours. So I have competency with it, but not quite mastery. I could be better. That's a place I try to put myself, mindset or otherwise, in order to grow. Just something you can try. So that was my response to the question I got this afternoon. Obviously this video is a little bit more in depth, but I just wanted to say that effort doesn't have to always feel so effortful. And if we ever get to a place where it feels like the things we used to like pursuing, the things we used to like doing, seem a lot more brutal and hard, then we may want to consider that there may be a version of ourselves out there in the ether, a mindset we can adopt, and some changes we can implement that can make effort seem less daunting, less brutal, less harsh, and even more enjoyable. When our life is aligned, effort can be enjoyable. Life can be enjoyable. I only talked about a few of the many things that can impact our lives like this, and many things that could potentially help us improve. But I know that life can be terrible sometimes. I know life can seem daunting, harsh, unforgiving. It can be brutal sometimes. I've lost a lot of friends and family along the way, and I wish they were here. But on the other side of that reign, when I find myself in a bad spot, I try to remember that there is a good spot to where life can be enjoyable. We still have the same problems, we still have many problems, but the effort we put in can be fun, exciting. And life can be difficult, but life can also be beautiful too. Have a beautiful day. Free fitness routine if you want it, fitness book, fitness app.